So, I've done a discussion before about some of the things about being autistic. So here's the question. Why does an autistic or a neurodivergent individual pick a career such as counseling when interacting with others is challenging or even painful? Why pick a profession where you do that on a regular basis? In order to do that, I would like to go a little deeper into the concept of masking. Because I think masking for neurodivergent individuals is something that's wildly misunderstood by most people. They think about it as faking or playing a part, like playing a part in a play or something like that. But it's not. It's a much more nuanced and deeper process. Inside every human being, you have different parts. I just break it down to physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. But each part has its own goals, its own objectives, and its own language. And neurotypical individuals know how to listen to just one language at a time, whereas neurodivergent individuals don't know how to separate them. They hear all the voices equally. So here's a quick example. You're in a relationship with a partner. You care about them, you love them, you want this, but they've done something that was incredibly painful to you. And at this point, you're feeling overwhelmed. The spiritual part that wants connection, love, bonding, what it wants to say is, please treat me with love, respect, and kindness. Now, the emotional side is saying, I've had too much, I'm overwhelmed, I can't take anymore. So it says, I hate you, I never want to see you again, my mom was right, I should have married Bob. Now, which of these is true? Is one true and one alike? No, both are true. But one is speaking from the voice of emotion, and one is speaking from the place of bonding, spiritual connection, these desires. Both are true. Now, here's the thing. Neurotypical individuals know how to hear just one voice at a time. So even if I'm wrong, I'm going to respond to you as if I actually know what's going on. So I come up and I say, oh, you're right, he's a dick, or he's this, right? And you either feel valued like that, and you say, but no, I love him, or you correct it. But they understand that they only hear one voice at a time, and so they're able to communicate that way, even when at times they're incorrect in which voice they listen to. But a neurodivergent individual doesn't hear just one voice. It's like you've got music playing and you've got multiple songs going on, and you hear the lyrics from this and you hear the lyrics from this, and now you're not sure which one you're singing to which song. So the neurodivergent individual hears all of these things, but they hear them all equally. There is not just one that they listen to, but all of them. And so in the midst of your pain, in the midst of your turmoil, the worst time of your life, the neurodivergent individual does the most horrendous thing possible, and they ask clarifying questions. So what do you really think about this? What are you trying to say? Because I heard this and I heard this. Oh my God, you know what I mean. Here's the thing. If you have a neurodivergent individual and you say, you know what I mean, I guarantee you they do not. You're in a space in your own brain that is a living hell. I already am uncomfortable interacting with people because of these conflicting noises. The last thing I want to do is sit longer with you in your living hell than I absolutely have to. So if you think that I'm intentionally misinterpreting, misreading, that I'm intentionally creating conflict with you to spend any more time in your brain than I absolutely have to, you are absolutely incorrect. But I'm trying to do a good human thing and connect with you. But since I don't know how to listen to just one voice at a time, the only way I can truly connect with you is to understand which voice you're trying to speak to me from at that time. So I ask a stupid, annoying, clarifying question, and I'm called confrontational, argumentative, intentionally conflicting, like I'm trying to start a fight with you, when what I'm really trying to do is connect and understand you so that I can be a good human being. So, understanding that this is happening, why would I, as a neurodivergent individual, put myself in this place over and over and over again? And here's the key. Neurotypical individuals, it's like they're being colorblind. They can't see that the other colors exist. When they identify the message that they think is the real message, they lose the ability to hear the other messages. Most of us, most human beings, when we listen to one message, we actually ignore the others as if they don't exist. So when we pay attention to one part of ourselves, the emotional part of myself, and we go into protection, we literally ignore the other parts of self, such as the spiritual, this desire for connection, the one that feels rejected, cut off, the part of us that hurts the most, that needs us the most, is actually being isolated and ignored at the time of our greatest need. I recognize talking to these different parts, when you're stressed, when you're in pain, talking to these different parts is never comfortable. It never feels safe. But as a neurodivergent individual who hears all of these parts, I can come in and do things that others don't. And this is where masking comes in. Masking is the ability to hear these parts and to, over time, learn for this person, the individual in front of you, which part they can actually have you listen to and respond to without increasing their stress. So at this moment, this individual wants you to speak to their emotional part, or they want you to speak to their spiritual part. And masking is the ability to identify which part it is that is dominant at that moment and speak to that part in a way that doesn't increase distress. It's not a lie, it's not fake, it's not doing something that's not real, but it's responding to the part of the language that the person is ready to hear. People who are, quote, high in masking do a really good job in differentiating which part wants to be spoken to at that time. Now, others who do masking, those that are low in masking, get 80% of the time people want this part spoken to. They want the emotional side or the spiritual side or the cognitive side spoken to. So I'm gonna do what works the most. But then I'm going to be wrong, and everybody's going to think I'm intentionally wrong when other people can pick up on this. But being someone who's high in masking, an increased ability to do this, I have now devoted my life to a profession where I sit down and I listen and I try to understand what all the parts are saying. And I try to play the advocate for the parts that need attention. That when you come see me, it doesn't feel safe to give them attention. And sticking with the same example, this is the part, the spiritual part that wants and desires connection, love, protection. The emotional side is the one that's seeking defensiveness, protection, safety, right? And this one is seeking protection in self, and this part is seeking protection from others. But to speak to one is to reject the other. Speak to spiritual about your desire for love increases the risk of the pain of rejection. To speak to safety increases the risk of isolation. So as somebody who can hear both of these messages equally, I can say, let's validate this side right now, because safety always has to come first. So let's validate, say, you want this, you want this, you want this, and this is painful because you also have this other side. Now, we can stay in safety as long as you want. But can you also understand that the only reason this hurts is because you still want connection? As long as I'm speaking in the language of safety, it's okay to acknowledge this side as long as I don't speak in the spiritual connection language, because safety needs me to speak in safety or emotional safety side of it. So I'm able to do this in a way that I can bring these parts and I can allow them to exist. And here's what happens. I now have an individual in front of me that we can start to acknowledge these different sides and make room and space for each of them to be heard, which means I can now interact with you without having to move into this landscape of a living hell. I recognize the pain of joining somebody in their stormy, conflictual, painful conflict that's happening inside their self when these parts don't communicate. But I also recognize that neurotypical individuals can't hear the other voices. So they literally can't be the bridge between these sides of self until they have someone who can help them be aware of these voices in a way that's safe. So as painful as it is, my ability to hear these parts equally, while sometimes troubling and painful, not only for myself, but for others, it has a value and a purpose that is useful to others. And so I do the job that I can do that not everyone else can do for them. And that's why you find that you actually have a lot of introverts and a lot of neurodivergent individuals who actually go into the counseling field, because we can do things that others literally cannot.